so glad the baby was born safely. I'm sorry I couldn't do anything. It's not like that. Just having you. Nathaniel is enough. Let's secure our happiness together. I felt terribly nauseated by those words, but I couldn't just leave things this way. I finally reached for the door. I knocked lightly and opened it. Hey, who do you think is the father of this baby? I entered the hospital room, reacted to Mirabelle's words, and looked up. Who could it be? Someone we know, maybe? What do you think? Christina? Nathaniel interrupted our conversation in a panic. For some reason, both the arrogant Mirabelle and the flustered Nathaniel seemed ridiculous, and I spat out. Of course we know him. Congratulations. Be happy. Make that child happy together. First, leaving Nathaniel behind? Surely they will receive their comeuppance. There's no way they could be happy after making someone else miserable. I was on my way to prepare a new future for them. My name is Christina Manson. I'm currently a 37-year-old housewife. I was born and raised in a rural area in Nebraska. I have one younger sister. I grew up happily as the eldest daughter in a very ordinary family. After graduating from high school, I worked as an office clerk in a local company. It wasn't flashy, but I spent my days happily and earnestly. Then, while working, I was introduced to my husband. Nathaniel was the son of the president of a client company. He was 3 years older than me and seemed too good for me. The executive who introduced Nathaniel to me said to his father, the president, Christina is serious and accurate in her work. She's also well regarded by her clients for her kindness. If a man who rarely praises anyone says that, she must be a wonderful young lady. My father-in-law took a liking to me from the first meeting. Nathaniel also liked me, and we started dating, leading to our marriage when I was 33. I quit my job and became a full-time housewife. Everyone celebrated my new life. But there was one person who didn't. That was my sister, Mirabelle, 10 years younger than me. She was a much-awaited second child born to my mother after fertility treatments. As such, she was doted on and spoiled by the family. Of course. I also adored Mirabelle. I want to eat pudding. This is yours, isn't it? Christina? Mirabelle, you had yours yesterday? Because of that, Mirabelle developed a personality quite opposite to mine, becoming quite the charmer. She was always able to express her opinions clearly, for better or worse. I don't want your hand-me-downs. They're so out of style. I don't want to wear them. When she was in elementary school, she would refuse to wear my old clothes, causing trouble for Mom. Truth is, our family wasn't exactly wealthy, rather on the lower middle-class side. Even though all my clothes were hand-me-downs too, I never complained, no matter how much I disliked them. It's not like Mirabelle shouldn't complain just because I didn't, but I think learning to be patient is important. They're not out of style. They might be a bit old, but they're still wearable designs. Whenever I tried to argue back, she'd sassily retort, "You're just too unfashionable to realize how lame those clothes are." Sure, I might not have been the most stylish, but the new clothes I did get were always worn with care, and Mom kept them in good condition. Since I wasn't into flashy stuff, my wardrobe consisted mostly of timeless, basic items from untrendy brands. I thought they would be perfectly fine for Mirabelle too, but obviously she just didn't like the idea of wearing my hand-me-downs. Still, as sisters bound by blood, our tastes were unknowingly quite similar, and the things Mirabelle would buy were often the same items I had, just in different colors. Yet, because of her cuteness, both our parents and I ended up spoiling her. Her whims escalated as she entered high school. She'd demand more allowance and buy anything she wanted right away, be it makeup or bags. If she didn't want to go to school, she'd skip. If she wanted to go out, she'd be out all night. At this point, our parents weren't just indulging her, they scolded her numerous times. We had to go out looking for her, in the middle of the night more than once or twice. Even if Dad and Mom refused to give her allowance, she'd run off to our unsuspecting grandparents and wheedle money out of them. No amount of lecturing or restrictions could change Mirabelle, who'd been free-spirited since she was little. I'm the one who spoiled Mirabelle. What if she keeps skipping and ends up dropping out? Mom felt responsible for Mirabelle's behavior, but Mirabelle did manage to graduate high school and even found a job. We were all relieved, but shockingly, she quit after just a month. "There's this stinky old man there," she said, as if that was a good enough reason to quit. Afterwards, she drifted between various part-time jobs, and now at 23, she seems to have settled down a bit. She became an adult now, so my parents and I didn't say anything to her. She's been working steadily for the past 2 years without quitting. Maybe she's Maybe she's finally learned a bit about personal responsibility and has calmed down. But then, upon my marriage, she suddenly wanted to quit her job too. Isn't it unfair, just you? Marrying the son of a CEO and becoming a housewife. I'm so jealous. That was Mirabelle's first reaction when I announced my marriage. Being a housewife doesn't mean I won't do housework, and I'm planning to do some uncompensated company work from home. Even when I explained this, the idea of quitting her job seemed irresistibly appealing to her. House chores are over in a flash, and company work is just a few minutes, right? I can't slack off though. Well, having a father-in-law who's a CEO must mean a lot of family obligations, right? It seems like you'll never have a moment's rest. Mom took my side, but there was no way my rival would be convinced. It's just a matter of patience until your in-laws are gone. In a few years, you'll be the CEO's wife, won't you? How can you say something like that? I was deeply offended by Mirabelle's remarks. Seeing me upset, Mirabelle laughed it off, saying, "Just kidding." But I wasn't in the mood to laugh, and our parents were just as stunned by her comment. Mirabelle's childish, self-centered words were too much for everyone. Yet, after a while, she actually quit her job. I quit my job, so I'll start doing the housework tomorrow. I'm gonna be a housewife. We were all taken aback by her sudden declaration, having never helped Mom before. I was planning to get married and leave home in a few months, but I felt sorry for my parents who had to continue living with Mirabelle. I can't believe she really quit her job. When I expressed my dismay, my parents just gave a wry smile. We thought she had settled down, but Mirabelle is still a child at heart. She's okay now, but what's she planning to do in the future without a steady job? Well, they believe in personal responsibility. My parents couldn't help but worry. Well, let's just hope Mirabelle doesn't cause Christina any trouble. Yes, you have to be happy and not let Mirabelle affect you. In the end, I couldn't do anything about Mirabelle's newfound enthusiasm for housewifery and left to get married. Despite moving out, I couldn't stop worrying about my family back home. My in-laws were kind, and life was comfortable, but being a housewife was harder than I expected. Besides house chores and work, there were relative gatherings and preparing gifts for company events, all of which were overwhelming. Even though we lived separately, my mother-in-law would often come over to teach me things, saying, "It must be tough marrying into this family, right?" No, I understand because it was hard for me too. But let's take it. If you try too hard, you'll run out of breath. My mother-in-law always taught me with a smile and understood the challenges a daughter-in-law faces. My friends said it sounded tough, but my mother-in-law always looked out for me, even preparing meals while I was busy learning my new job. I was deeply moved by how fortunate I was to have such wonderful in-laws. My parents are really happy that Christina became my wife. Nathaniel said that too. Gradually, I started to blend in as a daughter-in-law in this family. Then, 2 years into our marriage, I was blessed with our long-awaited first child. My in-laws were overjoyed. Nathaniel seemed excited about the baby's arrival too. However, I had a certain thought opposite to this joy. Nathaniel's suspicious behavior. He would take his phone to the bathroom, and his business dinners increased suddenly. Recently, we had less face-to-face time. With his reduced time at home, I worried he might be tired and once commented, "You seem really busy lately." Being the CEO soon, I'm swamped with constant calls and appointments. Nathaniel replied predictably and returned to his phone. Since getting pregnant, I've been feeling increasingly anxious about Nathaniel not being around. Then one day, I started to suspect he might be having an affair. It happened when I saw him on his phone. He was smiling more than usual for a work call. That expression unsettled me. Suddenly got a call. I need to go out. Sure enough, the president always calls at the last minute. "You go ahead and sleep," Nathaniel said hurriedly as he left the house. I thought it was unbelievable. What urgent matter could there be at this hour? Seeing my husband leave in the middle of the night while I was pregnant woke me up. I decided to hire a detective for the sake of our unborn child and to get Nathaniel to realize what he's doing. After some time, my parents called me. "Mirabelle's been taken to the hospital." Quickly, they said. I was shocked by their call. Hearing she was taken to the gynecology department, I thought she might have ovarian torsion, so I rushed to the hospital. "Is Mirabelle's checkup done? Is she okay?" I found my parents in the waiting room at the hospital and asked them. It turns out she's pregnant and she's started labor. What a binyay! I exclaimed in surprise at my mother's words. Actual ipostiters? She didn't realize until now. Mirabelle had regular checkups, but we didn't hear anything about it. I didn't show much during my pregnancy either, and Mirabel's belly didn't seem to show much either, so we didn't notice. I instinctively touched my own belly. Indeed, I'm not the type with a noticeable belly either, but can it really happen that nobody notices a pregnancy until the last month? It's no use thinking about that now though. Soon after, I heard a healthy baby's cry, bringing a momentary relief before other concerns emerged. The question now was how to raise this child. Mirabel, an unmarried self-proclaimed housewife without a job, and we didn't even know who the father was. But right after giving birth, it wasn't the time to ask Mirabel such questions, so I went home after seeing the newborn's face. Mirabel had a baby. I told Nathaniel when I got home. Really? Mirabel's a mom now? Nathaniel seemed surprised, but smiled happily. Can I go see her too? How about we go together this weekend? I only saw the baby briefly today, so I'm planning to visit again. Alright, I'll try to rearrange my work schedule, Nathaniel said, immediately fiddling with his phone. It's all lies about work adjustments. But I hope seeing Mirabel's child might make him change. Then, on the weekend, Nathaniel and I went to visit Mirabel in the hospital. Right before entering the hospital, my phone rang. It was from the detective agency. It wasn't good to answer with Nathaniel around. Sensing my hesitation, Nathaniel asked, "Is that a call? Can I go ahead?" It seems he is looking forward to seeing the baby, which makes me feel relieved. Yeah, I'll be there soon. This call won't take long. I said goodbye to Nathaniel and answered the call. After the call, feeling gloomy, I headed to the hospital room. Then I heard voices from inside. I'm so glad the baby was born safely. I'm sorry I couldn't do anything. It's not like that. Just having you, Nathaniel, is enough. Let's secure our happiness together. The call I had just received made those words nauseating to me. But I couldn't just leave. I finally reached for the door, knocked lightly, and opened it. How are you feeling? Near Mirabel, it's our Retaliations. You came? Of course. I did. Nathaniel was holding the baby and looking happy. I gave birth first, huh? He's healthy and cute, right? I wonder what your child will be like. Like Stina. Indeed. It seemed Mirabel wanted to one-up me. Her tone irritated me, but I kept my response short, not wanting to rise to the bait. Then, perhaps frustrated that I didn't react, Mirabel spoke more forcefully. I looked up, reacting to her words. Oh, who could it be? Someone we know, maybe? What do you think? Nathaniel hurriedly joined our conversation. Both Mirabel's arrogance and Nathaniel's panic seemed ridiculous to me, and I retorted, "Of course we know him. Well, congratulations. Be happy. Make that child happy together. I'm leaving now. Are you going already? Wait, please." Nathaniel trying to follow me, hastily laid the baby on the bed, but was stopped by Mirabel. What? If you knew, then that's great. Nathaniel, you're lucky. Nathaniel was flustered, frozen by Mirabel, grabbing his clothes. I left him there, and headed straight for the detective agency. The call I received earlier was to inform me that the evidence was ready. The detective hesitantly added, "Actually, we've seen a woman familiar with the gynecology clinic about 10 minutes west of your house, accompanied by Nathaniel. It was the very clinic where Mirabel gave birth." As much as I didn't want to believe it, Mirabel always wanted what was mine. The earlier conversation confirmed my suspicions. Nathaniel was definitely having an affair with Mirabel. After collecting the evidence from the detective agency, I went to my in-laws' house. Nathaniel has a child. A child? What do you mean? Isn't it too early for our grandchild? He confused. My in-laws tilted their heads. Yes. The child is not mine. Please look at this. I handed them the evidence I received from the detective agency. As they looked at it, their faces turned pale. After realizing everything, they were full of apologies. I had no idea it would come to this. My mother-in-law was in tears, almost bowing her head to the floor. Mother-in-law, please lift your head. I'm not here to ask for an apology from you two, but I cannot forgive Nathaniel. I think it's going to end in divorce. I see. Her offendest and penance a letter for a woman like you. But sure, Christina, being saddened like this, we as his parents can't forgive him either. We truly are sorry. We'll do anything we can to help. Thank you. I felt a deep relief knowing my in-laws were understanding. The divorce seemed like it would go smoothly. After our conversation, their anger turned towards Nathaniel. What on earth is Nathaniel thinking? We need to talk to him right away. My father-in-law said that and immediately started calling Nathaniel. As soon as the call connected, he shouted loudly. Out loudly. I've heard everything from Mirabelle. What is this about? Come and explain. It's a misunderstanding. Listen to me. Nathaniel sounded panicked over the phone. His pitiful voice leaking from the smartphone made me chuckle, but there were no smiles on my in-laws' faces. Alright, we'll hear everything, just get here quickly. Sorry, I'll be there right away. His voice was almost like a scolded child. Just imagining his face, I let out a small laugh. Not wanting to face Nathaniel, I went home right after and started packing. The house was a wedding gift from my father-in-law, and my mother-in-law had furnished it for me. I didn't want these gifts from my in-laws to be taken by Mirabelle after the divorce. When I shared my feelings, my in-laws said, of course, we gave that house and furniture to you. Christina, but we understand if you don't want to live there. We have an apartment closer to the station, so move there for now. Thank you. They arranged a new home and moving company for me. Thanks to my in-laws, I moved out quickly. Nathaniel seemed to be grounded at his parents', not even allowed to go to work. My mother-in-law kept me updated about his situation. It's about a week later. I finally got a call from Nathaniel. Christina, I finally got to call you. Mom took my phone. Why are we getting a divorce? There's nothing to discuss. How can we continue our marriage when you have a child with another woman? It was just a fling with Mirabelle. I didn't expect her to get pregnant. Anyway, I'm on my way home. Let's talk. Don't leave. Stay there, Nathaniel said in a rushed tone and hung up, but I couldn't help but laugh. I'd already moved out. Yet where on earth was Nathaniel heading to? Then, just a few minutes later, predictably, Nathaniel called again. What do you mean? Why is the house gone? The new owner plans to turn it into a parking lot. That's outrageous. That house is in my dad's name? Lunch's course, I got their permission. Montreal, the day I moved out, I disposed of your things. So there's no house for you anymore. Just go back to your parents' house quietly. After I moved out, my father-in-law sold the house. I was grateful for his help. As I told Nathaniel, the new owner planned to turn it into a parking lot, and the house was demolished a few days ago. I went to see it being torn down. I thought I might feel sad, but watching the house being demolished with loud noises, I felt relieved. So we really can't go back now. Nathaniel's probably standing where the house used to be. His voice sounded weak and desperate. He was just being stubborn, not accepting the inevitable. If he regretted it so much, he shouldn't have cheated in the first place. Stop being so persistent. Reflect on your actions back at your parents' place. Nathaniel must have escaped from his parents' scolding, but now he had nowhere else to find solace. He had destroyed it himself. That night, I received a call from my parents. Mirabelle is claiming Nathaniel is the baby's father, but that must be a mistake, right? Apparently. Mirabelle had been saying that since her discharge from the hospital, but my parents had ignored it, thinking it impossible. However, as she persisted, my mother called me, wondering if it might be true. I hate to ask you this, Christina, but what Mirabelle is saying is true. I'm planning to divorce Nathaniel. No way. I've already informed Nathaniel's parents, and they're arranging a new place for me. I'll start discussing the divorce soon. My mother sounded like she was crying on the phone. She apologized several times, saying Mirabelle is sorry for what she did, which brought tears to my eyes. My mother seemed to feel responsible for her actions. Despite being an adult, Mirabelle probably couldn't imagine how her actions hurt others. Don't worry about anything, Mom. I reassured my parents and ended the call. Then, with my in-laws present, we began discussing the divorce. I was wrong. I fell for Mirabelle's temptation. Nathaniel seemed not to want a divorce, apologizing repeatedly, but his words didn't resonate with me. If you truly feel sorry, will you marry Mirabelle? That's impossible. The baby is born now, and Mirabelle can't raise a child alone. You need to take responsibility. Nathaniel fell silent at my words, unable to respond. My father-in-law sighed deeply. Christina, we will support the child you're expecting. Nathaniel, fulfill your obligations to Christina's sister and the child. Nathaniel reluctantly signed the divorce papers after being told this by both me and his father. I hope he reflects on his actions and how they led to this situation. After our divorce, Nathaniel remarried Mirabelle and began living with his parents. The house was gone, so they had no choice but to live together. By that time, I was in my final month of pregnancy, but living comfortably in the house my in-laws had prepared for me. I'm sorry for taking Nathaniel away. Mirabelle messaged me, but I ignored it. Responding to Mirabelle now could harm my health. but probably this was exactly what she wanted. I wonder what kind of child your sister will have. Cousins, but more like siblings. Isn't that funny? Well, I'm younger and prettier, so my child will surely be better. She kept sending such insensitive messages. And hey, I haven't received a baby shower gift from you yet. Frustrated by her continuous messages, especially about a baby shower gift, I finally replied, "Are you at home? I'll come over right now." I had ignored her for so long, but this message pushed me to visit Nathaniel's house. "How are you, Dr. Stina?" My mother-in-law greeted me warmly, showing concern even after the divorce. That day too, they welcomed me warmly to their home and invited me in right away. "Is Mirabelle here?" "Nathaniel is off today, so she's probably around." My mother-in-law hesitated a bit, clearly uneasy. With a smile, I said, "Great, I brought a baby shower gift for Mirabelle and Nathaniel." I entered and sat in the living room. My mother-in-law called Mirabelle. Mirabelle held the baby and looked content. She had no idea what was about to unfold. She looked at me with a mocking smile. Finally brought the baby shower gift. Well, we aren't short of money. I handed her a thick envelope. The envelope was so thick. It was too big to contain, making Mirabelle frown. "What's this?" "I didn't plan to give it, but this is my gift to you." Mirabelle cautiously handed the baby to Nathaniel and opened the envelope. As she looked through the papers, her face turned pale. "What is this? What do you mean by this?" She shouted angrily at Nathaniel. Nathaniel looked at the documents Mirabelle was holding with a puzzled expression. And then he turned pale. "I don't know anything about this. It wasn't me." "It's obviously you." "Nathaniel." I couldn't help but smile at their exchange. Actually, the envelope contained investigation documents from the detective. I had shown them to my in-laws, of course, but they revealed a shocking truth unknown to Mirabelle. Nathaniel had not just been unfaithful with Mirabelle. There were 4 others. Mirabelle was only the third in line. The first was a double affair with a subordinate's wife in his company. Nathaniel was really into her. According to my mother-in-law, the husband found out, and Nathaniel finally broke it off when he married Mirabelle. The second was a 20-year-old he met on an app. Incredibly, it was this girl, not Mirabelle, who accompanied him to the gynecologist. According to the detective, they were there for an abortion, and the third was Mirabelle. The fourth was a friend of Mirabelle, introduced by her. Of course I knew all this. But by then Nathaniel was a stranger to me, regardless of how many relationships he had. The fact that one of them was with my sister made it completely unacceptable. It was enough to make him irredeemable. I had planned to bury this information if Mirabelle sincerely apologized and reflected on her actions. However, her constant attempts to one-up me made me decide to bring her down from her high horse. "You're terrible a liar." As expected, Mirabelle went into hysterics, crying and screaming. Even though she was holding her precious baby, she cursed Nathaniel repeatedly and tried to grab him. "What's all this noise?" At that moment, my father-in-law returned home. Seeing me, he said, "Happily, Christina, you're here?" Then he glared at Mirabelle and Nathaniel. "What are you doing shouting in front of the baby?" Father-in-law listened. Nathaniel has they both know everything Nathaniel has done. I smiled at Mirabelle, who had a meltdown. "Of that matter," my father-in-law said in a weary tone, "after all, Mirabelle, you were part of the affair. Do you even have the right to blame Nathaniel?" But to me, ever since Christina and Nathaniel divorced, your father planned to cut him off. We both really thought of Christina as part of our family. I was overjoyed by her words, and I chuckled inwardly at the divine retribution my sister and her husband faced, having lost their home, jobs, and trust. The sister and her husband moved into the house my father-in-law had prepared. Surprisingly, it was a 15-minute walk from the station. However, it was next to a pediatric clinic and just a 3-minute walk to a supermarket, ideal for raising a child. According to my parents, Mirabelle complained about not being able to go out, but if there were too many temptations, she would surely squander money. I hope she earnestly tries to raise her child in the house my father-in-law found for her grandchild's sake. Nathaniel is now working in sales at a real estate company under Mirabelle's thumb. Interestingly, this real estate company is run by the family of the subordinate Nathaniel had an affair with. I don't know if the company is aware of Nathaniel's actions, but he must be feeling uncomfortable there. Moreover, with the alimony payments, Mirabelle won't be able to live the luxurious life she wanted. Neither Mirabelle nor Nathaniel could have imagined this life, but they brought it upon themselves. No matter what, I hope they make their child happy. I later gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Both my parents and my in-laws adored him. Though the family ties with my in-laws have been severed, we still keep in touch, and I live in the apartment they arranged. I now work remotely for my father-in-law's company, which I used to do unpaid. They made me an employee, and I earn enough to raise my child on my own. I may have been plain, but I've always cherished people and acted with integrity. I believe this is the result of that. I might not have been lucky with my husband, but I have a beautiful son, and I'm truly grateful for the opportunity to work from home while raising my child.